Secretz and welcome to a brand new Studio Secretz video. So what I thought I'd do in this video is show you a brand new app that I've been using. It's called Fingertip Midi and it's by Lucid Lab and Mark Oko. Now what it basically is a MIDI controller, like a MIDI keyboard that works over Wi-Fi with your DAW. And what it basically is a grid full of notes, and all the notes are within a scale. So no matter what note you hit, you're going to be hitting the right note for the scale. So what can we do with this? Well, we can use it to come up with melodies, we can use it to come up with chords, and basically what I thought I'd do in this video is kind of play around with it and see how we can use it within Ableton to come up with some song ideas or come up with some chords and some melodies.
Okay, so let's get into this video on Fingertip Midi. Now this takes a little bit of setup. It's a bit fiddly, but once you get it up and running, it's good fun, and there's lots of stuff that you can do with it. Great little thing for coming up with ideas. So what I'm going to do is talk you through setting it all up. So I'm using this in Ableton. You can use it in just about any DAW, and I'm going to set it up on the Mac because obviously that's what I work from. You probably want different instructions to use it on with a PC, but we're going to concentrate on the Mac today. So I've got Ableton loaded up here, just with an instant of Massive, just with a default patch. And what I'm going to do is I'm now going to set up the Finger Midi app. So the first thing we need to do is create an ad hoc network. Now the Fingertip Midi, to be able to communicate with it, it does it through your Wi-Fi, and you can either do it through your Wi-Fi router that you have in your home or in your studio, or you can do it as an ad hoc network. Now if you do it through your network, your router, at your home, there's a lot of latency, and we're talking, you press it and the note happens about 3 or 4 seconds later. That's the best I've got it to anyway. So the best thing is create an ad hoc network. Now to do this, you just click on the Wi-Fi icon on the toolbar and click on Create Network. Now this will create, this will use your main studio Mac as the kind of hub, the router, and then anything else will connect to it. So I'm just going to create, computer to computer network. Now you can set up a security code here if you want, a password if you want to. I'm not going to bother at the moment. Depending on how long you're going to have this up and running for, and how secure you want to be, you can set a password in there. That's absolutely cool. But I'm just going to leave it just as is for now. So that's exactly, I'm just going to leave it with the defaults and just click create. So that'll create its own little Wi-Fi network, and you can see by the icon up here that it's a brand new network. This might change with the new OS X, but this is what the icon looks on Mavericks. So now we're going to jump into the iPad. And what we'll do is we'll head into the settings. So what we're going to do is we're going to want to connect to it as a Wi-Fi point. Now obviously under Wi-Fi, on your Wi-Fi scanner, it will show you all the different Wi-Fi networks that you're a member of. You're probably already connected to your Wi-Fi router. And if we just wait for this to update, it should hopefully show up the network that we've just created. Now if you see down the bottom, the network that we've just created, Richie's iMac, has is showing up there. So what we're going to do is just connect to that. It will say that it's it's not connected to the internet unless your main studio computer is hardwired into the internet and you want to share the internet that way. That's the only reason this won't show up. So this will probably show up, and it's fine to just join it anyway. You don't want to use the internet from that anyway. You just want to create a connection from one to the other. So there we go. We've connected to that. That's all now connected. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to start up Fingertip Midi. Now this shouldn't need any settings here. This should all be set up just nicely for you. So back to the iMac, and what we're going to do now is set up the MIDI coming in from the iPad. So what we're going to do is we're going to jump into applications and into utilities, and in there we should be able to find a little application called Audio MIDI Setup. So I'll do is I'll double click on that to launch it. And if you'll probably arrive at this window here which says audio devices. We don't want to deal with this. We want to click on window. No, actually view. No, window. Yeah, we'll click on window and then we'll click on Show MIDI Window. So this is the window we're looking for. And what we're going to do is first we're going to click on this IAC driver. We'll double click on that, and all we need to do in this should all be set up exactly the same. All we need to do in here is just click and check the devices online box. So that puts that online, and I'll just close that back down again. Right, so next we'll click on Network, and this is where we're going to be setting up the connection between the iPad and the main studio computer. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start a new session. So I'll click on the plus button here, and then I'll just name this as, something like call that studio session perhaps. And then what we'll do is we'll then click to enable it. So that will start the session up, and it should all be working just nicely there. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to click on the iPad that's showing within the directory here. Hopefully that should be showing there. If not, you might need to change this box here to kind of show different devices that are connected on your network. But because we just set this network up, there should really only be one thing on it at the moment, and that's your iPad. So once we've got that, we click connect, and that should then connect to it here. Now, the next step we need to do is jump into Ableton, and we'll jump into the preferences of Ableton. Now, this could be different depending on, obviously if you're using a different DAW, the actual setup for this might be different. So once we've got the preferences open, we're going to jump to the MIDI tab. And what we're going to do is we're going to look under all the different inputs and outputs here for the MIDI. Now what we're looking to is turn on the one that we just set up. So this already says here Network Studio Session. That's the session that we've just named, and we want to make sure that's on. So we'll make sure that's on there, and we'll also make sure the output is on as well. Now we don't necessarily need that, but I'm going to set it on anyway just in case. So that should be all set up, and what we're doing now is close that down, and hopefully if we have a look up here, this is the MIDI notification up here. If I press some of the buttons on this fingertip, they should register in there. They're not. So let's jump back into this. Okay, so this didn't. So this has happened several times for me, and this can be a bit of a problem with trying to connect to your iPad. So you might experience this error message. So what we need to do is just click connect again. Oh, there we go. So now you just need to, if that error message just comes up, click OK, and then click connect again, and so that should now all work. So I'm going to jump back into Ableton now, and as I press some of these buttons on the app, then it will start triggering notes in that instance of Massive that I've got here. So, explaining what this little app does. Now that we've got it all set up, let's have a look. Let's have a look and see what it does. So basically, it's this big row of just notes in there. These notes are all within scales. So rather than it having a keyboard and you can hit any note and it could be in or it could be out of the current scale and chord that you're using, this is just all mapped, so everything you hit should sound pretty good. So what I'm going to do is across here we've got all the kind of main pads here that we can hit. Just think of them as keys on a keyboard. On the right here we've got this kind of scroll bar that allows you to scroll up and down. This kind of scrolls through your octaves and semitones, so it shows more and more rows there. Under the little eye here, the info, we can see tutorials for for learning how to use it. These aren't going to show at the moment because we're not connected to a Wi-Fi network. Well, we are connected to a Wi-Fi network, but there's no internet, so we can't use that at the moment. But under here is a tutorial that kind of shows you how to use the app, and then there's also the same MIDI and Wi-Fi setup tutorial. If you want to go through that. So if I click on play app, go back into the app again, and if I click on this little settings icon here, There's a few settings in here that you might want to play around with. The main one is quantize. Now you can play along to a metronome. If I turn the metronome on, I can play along to a metronome coming from the iPad. But seeing as that the latency between the iPad and Ableton can be quite hit and miss, I'd leave the metronome off. It's good if you're just playing if you were just playing straight off the iPad, but if you're trying to try and get it in time with your Ableton, it's gonna be a real pain. So we'll turn quantize off and metronome off. Optionally, you can turn the chords and notes on. So if I turn that on, you can see behind it there. So these are all the notes that you can play. And as you can see, they're all chords, they're proper notes, and they're all on the right scale. So you got the scales down the left hand side here, and then you got all the notes of that scale. So you can jump between them and come up with some really cool kind of melodies and nice chord patterns. So some other options within here, you can change the octave. So if you want to go lower or high, you can easily just adjust this. We'll keep that like as it is for now. Jumping into MIDI, again, there's not much here that we need to know. It's just showing that that's the session that we're currently connected to. And then there's a couple of share buttons here. If you want to tell your mates about it, you can share it from there. So anyway, let's close those settings down and start playing with this thing. So if I press any of the buttons here, we'll start getting some notes coming out of Massive, because that's the instrument that we've currently got connected on the MIDI. So of course we can set the MIDI, which channel this MIDI instrument is controlling by clicking this little icon here. If you've used a keyboard at all, you would know. You've probably used this many times. And this little app works the exact same way as a MIDI keyboard does. It's just working over a wireless network. Now, as I said before, there's a bit of latency there, so when you start hitting the buttons, you might not get it instantly there. But I like to kind of think of this tool as, rather than being a live kind of performance tool, I find it's much better as just coming up with ideas for notes, for melodies, for chords, just generally playing around. So I wouldn't put too much focus on it being a performance app. I think the latency is too high for that. If you manage to get the latency down, then that's brilliant. Why not use it for a live performance app? But for me, it's we're not quite there on that yet. So as I say, let's have a look at. So at the moment, I've just got the init pad on Massive. What I'll do is I'll have a look and maybe jump in and have a look at some. Let's have a look at some organs, for example. Let's pick out some nice ones from here. Let's try the heavy organ, so we can start playing around and start hitting a few notes and coming up and seeing what we can do with it. So we've got the lowest kind of note in the scale here, and then it gradually goes up. So you can either just hit the notes with your finger, or you can just swipe it and do a whole kind of like piano roll almost. Yeah, as I say, it's just a good thing for kind of coming up with some ideas. So I've just been playing around, and I'll just start hitting some notes and see what comes out. So as I say, I mean, you can start just playing around here, and if you kind of work in columns, then you can almost start working your way through the chords. So if I pick some different columns, say these columns, and we can just start playing around with whatever we want. Let's go to a bassier kind of patch. So let's try the house organ bass maybe. as I say, I mean, as you can see when I'm hitting the keys there, the actual timing of it is it's very hit and miss. You know, sometimes it doesn't register, sometimes it does. It's just a case of the latency between on the Wi-Fi network and the actual and your main studio computer. So probably what I suggest is when you start hitting these notes, just hit record on the channel. So if I jump into the arrangement view and then just just hit the record button, and then I can just start, I can start playing some of these notes and seeing what, what comes out. And then I can start, once I've, once I've recorded them, I can then start playing around with, with fine tuning them within the sequencer. So there we go, got some notes in there, and as I say, we can then, if I go into the actual the MIDI clip, we can actually see these notes. They've all been drawn in there, and rather than like obviously with any other kind of instrument that you play, you might not get, it's just going to be recording it straight in. You've got these MIDI notes that you can go straight in and start editing with. And it's just good for coming up with some fast ideas. If you're not like musically trained, as I'm not, I just kind of play around on the keyboard and I just hit keys, and if they work, they work. If they don't, they don't. I'm not musically trained. I'm not particularly rhythmic, but I kind of just hit stuff and play around with it. So the great thing with this is that you can kind of hit the keys and you're instantly in tune with everything, and you can start coming up with ideas really quick. So let's say this is a kind of smashed together kind of guide of how to use this kind of app. And from playing with it for the last a few days, I think it's a brilliant little app. And if you're struggling for ideas, or if you're trying to figure out some chords and get some idea of different melodies you want to come up with, then this is a really great app for doing that. So let's try with maybe a different patch. Actually, let's have a look at So that's just a few different ways you can use that app. And as I say, it's a great little thing for coming up with ideas. It's not quite ready for performance yet because of the latency issue, but if you're just coming up with ideas for a track and for the melodies of a track, then I definitely recommend getting hold of it. You can just jam out with it, come up with some ideas, come up with that melody, and then go and jump into it and start editing it within your sequencer. It's a great little tool, and I'll leave the links in the video below the video on YouTube. So if you want to get hold of it, you can do.